Okay. You got that for how much?
$18 with shipping. Yeah, that 24 this week from another vendor. He shipped me two and cracked the lens on one of them. He gave me my money back. I'll glue it up and use it anyway. Now you can officially be late. If you just waited a couple minutes, you could have been late.
I tried.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, I got my switch and left it at home. Dadgummit.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Can you put a link about this camera in the Google Plus page?
Sure, sure. If you go look in Jim's corner, you won't see that one. You won't see
this one?
Not this one, the other one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's Agasio, Agasio.
I see.
Yep. It's pretty straightforward. I did have to play some games to turn the night lights on. There's a switch that they use an OCX file, whatever that is, in Internet Explorer, the old version of Internet Explorer.
Oh, it's only, I need to switch it to
turn the LEDs on at night to enable them. After that, it's great. But those are pretty good. And I was buying these used ones, these old ones, instead of the new ones, because the night vision is much better. Some of the night vision ones, the WANS cams are, this one's good.
That's the entire one. Yay. It's working.
I can show you the.
Oh, I just stole the screen from you just at that time.
Oh yeah.
So what's the resolution on that one?
640 by 480. Yeah, but for my purposes, it's fine.
It has a battery inside, or why is it the size?
Do what?
Why is it so big in the size?
It's old.
And heavy?
Yeah, it's older.
It's old.
Yeah, the newer ones are smaller.
That's why the price.
Yeah, the newer ones are smaller, but it's an anchor. It's heavy too. If you go mount it on a regular bracket, you better have a nice bracket. But I like them. I'm using them, and it's got the dongle on it. It's got 5, 6 different wires on it. It's really a pain, but I'm here buying them as quick as I can get them because the resolution, night vision is good, and they're simple and they work. Let's see who's going to do this.
That lead is just mechanical image stabilization.
Sign into Chrome.
Yeah, they were, because of the high school so close to get kids coming over here every day, that a few bad apples. So they have the cops, the sheriff's over here every afternoon, just to make sure the lid doesn't come off the.
Here at the library?
Here at the library, and they're looking at putting a library out in Liberty Township, but they don't want to put it too close to the high school for that reason. They want
Try to eliminate some
of the kids that just want to go and hang out and not, a lot of kids can come in here and study and they don't cause any problems.
Got anything else?
I'm going to show them this camera at home.
So is this a push button on the end of that wire?
Yeah, that's the reset, manual reset.
Okay. I had gotten one. It's like a 3 megapixel camera, pretty good resolution. And the only way you can reset it if you lose the password is to physically disassemble it, short out 2 pins.
Oh yeah. This is this camera here that's an Agasio 603, inferior to this one. This is another Agasio 603. That's a 501L.
You don't have the screen.
Oh, never mind.
The Ethernet cable is for configuration.
The cable it has a S connector on it. It has AVI out.
But you have an Ethernet cable or something
It has an Ethernet connector
for configuration or.
for configuration.
So can you get the image off of that as well? Over Ethernet?
The image over Ethernet.
Yeah,
Over Wi-Fi?
No,
over the Ethernet.
I mean,
Okay,
you can get it on the full. You have to put a a server, web server connection. That's a standard thing in your router to jump it over. Okay.
okay,
You can say take these routes take these ports, and if somebody comes in looking for this port, and then it jumps it over to the other side. You have to set them up explicitly, although you can set up a range to say jump this over to this range. So yeah, it's easy to do. I can do it. I can do it.
well, I just meant, can you get the same functionality over the cable as you can over the wireless?
Cables you can over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi gets a little busy. You need a faster network because I've got like 13, probably more like 20 now. And I did have to go to i7 on one of my laptops to take everything in. But yeah, it'll work. I did drop my frame rate, but it's my monitor frame rate, not the transmit frame rate. Cast. Let me get the cast set up again. There, desktop. This is amazing that I can do this. This works. Okay.
No, it's not.
It's amazing that it did work, but it's not working now. Where did it go? Maybe they're usually screwed. I thought I did this one day. It's still up there. Okay. Okay, so far so
Have you
good.
used the code vendor?
Oh,
The page of the.
Code Vendor?
Yeah,
They closed the doors.
I thought that, but I used this afternoon. I
Really?
used them, yes. Save, load, compile, everything is working.
Huh.
I don't know why.
Now, I don't think they're adding any,
Supposedly they went down in January or so.
I don't think they're adding
Yeah, it's
anything
still
new
working.
to it. It may still be working.
It looks like it's not gonna let me do it today. Probably because I just had a connection. It may be mad because there's another connection. Let's see.
I think.
Oh, here we go.
It was wonderful for Chrome or using
Yeah,
Okay.
your
that
code
one in
anywhere.
there.
that's why I liked it, because it would work with the
But
Chromebooks.
they are still working, and they are planning to release a website.
Okay, we'll do
For
cameras
the
one day
ESP
again.
8266.
Trial mode. Welcome to Post. Please keep in mind that you're in trial
How you doing,
mode.
Jeremy?
Hey. Oh,
You doing okay? You ready?
they must have
Okay,
brought it
we'll
back.
do the introduction. I'm Jim McCrary.
Mike Lau.
I did this on
Steve
series.
Jones?
That's Vicente,
He's not paying any attention.
Hey,
Leroy.
and that's usual for most of the group. Jeremy, our grand poobah today. James. Okay. And today we have Jeremy's going to do a presentation. We're trying to bring in devices for him to find out about.
Use the phones
Using
also
InMap.
to find
Anybody want to look at
connect
my
the phone to the
camera?
network and to see
It's
it.
10.10.10.206 or 106.
It looks like they are reviving it, and they're going to go to a paid model, which is probably good.
And on this version of the FOSS cams, you can sign in as Firefox or ActiveX mode or whatever you want.
You use your login and your password, your username.
Okay, Jeremy, you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's get this show going. So I'm gonna start casting the desktop. And go. Come on. Boom. All right, so, okay, so who here does this admin? Just so I know.
To what?
Who here does this admin? Yeah. I guess who here already knows how to use Nmap? Okay, that's
There's
him.
a lot to know.
Yes,
I know the basics of it.
Training wheels.
This is not going to be that in depth. This is just basic stuff that would be useful to know if you are working on any kind of network connected project.
Nmap run on Windows?
There's a version of it that runs on Windows.
Okay.
There's a version of it that runs on Windows. I've never used it. I've heard it works.
Okay.
What are you running now?
I'm running Ubuntu, but actually I'm going to use a virtual machine for this.
Okay.
That's running in there just so I can, because A is just so I can use a separate adapter, and B so I can see my own machine.
Okay.
That one's connected to the virtual. Okay, so so Nmap is a let's see, among the things it does, it is a host discovery, port scanning, basically general purpose look at what my network looks like tool from the outside. So it's a really good way, especially if you do, well, I'd say it's pretty useful for anyone who runs a web server or needs to run any kind of network connected applications, purely because it gives you an idea of what your devices look like from the outside. Because, it's a really good way to make sure that even if you're not doing any kind of pen testing with it, sometimes you set up a web application, a server or something, or maybe an IoT device, and you can be in your house and you shut all the windows, but it's good to be able to step outside and see what's actually visible out there, because who knows, you may have a hole in your roof. So let's just go through a few basics here on how to do it. So most actually, I can't think of many that don't. Pretty much most Linux distros are going to have an Nmap package. If you're on Debian, you can install. It's sudo apt install Nmap, whatever. It'll recognize it, but you can always install it manually. We're not going to go through that process because you can always go to the site and do that.
So this is text-based?
Yes, this is going to be command line.
Okay.
Everyone can see. Yay. Okay, so first things first. So you've got your handy laptop or whatever you're going to use hooked up to the Wi-Fi, and you've got Nmap installed, and let's say you've got a bunch of devices you want to have a look at. Well, first thing you want to do is what do I even have in here? You need to do host discovery. There's a few different ways you can do this. One is, the first thing you probably want to do is, if you don't already know the IPs for your devices for some reason, which knowing the IP of the device saves you a lot of time, I can pretty much tell you that. It's good to know, at the very least, what range they're going to be in. So I guess just as a rule of thumb, you can always check your own. This one uses 10, 10, 10 something. Okay, sure. So, and in this virtual machine, we're running as root. So any commands from here on out, assume you're going to run as sudo. Because there are some features on Nmap you can't use unless you're sudo. So you might as well use it as sudo. But for root in this one, don't do this for a regular machine, obviously. So first things first, host discovery. I probably shouldn't have locked my phone because I had my to-do in there. Okay, so As always, for any Linux command, we have man. Pretty much all the commands I'm going to go through are listed in here. You can always search for them, but we know what they are. So first, we might want to search if does anything on here already have a domain name. I mean, the network may have a DNS. So command for that is SL, and pretty much tell you right now, this often doesn't catch anything, but you never know. And everything on 10.10.10. Now, it's usually good to at least start from the point where you know what the IP range is going to be, because if you get past that first number, it's going to take forever to scan for anything, just because you have so many IP addresses to scan. Usually that's fast. Is it working? Actually, wait. Let's run it with verbose, because we like running our Linux commands in verbose. So they tell us what they're doing. Don't worry, I got to back up. If this doesn't work, I'm switching to the host. I'm just doing it from there. No DNS resolution. I guess that makes sense. This thing doesn't even have a... Yeah, it totally makes sense. I guess this router wouldn't have one running. Okay, so that was not going to work in this case, I don't think. So the next thing you're probably going to want is let's just go ahead and ping everything as SN. Don't ask me why. There's probably a reason for that. It used to be PN. That made sense, but
PN makes sense.
There's a I think there's a reason. It's because like a lot of the scanning commands went under S something. Ooh, okay. So we've got no hosts for we got no hosts for a while. All right, so host down. Ooh, okay. So we got some devices. It's usually going to give you the name that the network adapter gives. It's basically just going to give you the name that the network adapter is giving out, which is not necessarily the name of the device for some reason, for a lot of reasons. So I do know that in this case that the B-link is actually the camera back there. I'm not actually sure who that is. High precision. And the Azure Wave. Oh, and there's an Intel in here. I'm guessing that's someone's
We do
laptop.
have the Chromecast module in here on this network too.
Actually, I think that might be the Chromecast. Because I've seen that one before. Not sure what it is. Yeah, it might actually be the Chromecast. Now that I think about it.
Which network is he scanning?
So this is the Wi-Fi. This is the Wi-Fi.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep. So this will give you back anything that responds to pings.
Password.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Obviously,
6, 7,
not
8.
everything is going to respond to pings. Like actually, well, the camera didn't respond to ping last time, but now it does. Go figure. So those are a couple ways you can at least figure out what is on my network. There are other ways you can do this, but we're going to assume for the most part that if you're using this, there are other ways to look for devices on your network, but we're going to assume for the most part, if you guys are using this, you're using it on a network that you own, because we're good little boys. Okay.
You probably would not want to get caught using it here. Is that what you're saying?
It probably doesn't matter too much, because really, for the most part, you're not going to be looking for things that can already get to. Okay, so now that we know we can use either of these techniques to figure out what's on our network to begin with. So what are some of the stuff we can do? Well, we can it's a port scanner. Let's scan for ports. Let's see, what's the device we know nothing about? Actually, wait, I know what this is. That's the router that for some reason assigns itself the address of 252. What do we got here? You think the Azure Wave is the Chromecast?
Could be.
Actually, okay, let's try 102. So
I think it is,
1010,
actually.
When we know 103 is the Raspberry Pi.
102. Let's try that one. So by default, if you just nmap to an IP address, it scans the most commonly used 1,000 addresses. Oh, it's not responding to ping anymore. So by default, that is something to know. By default, what it's going to do is it's going to try to ping it first to see if it's still there. Because otherwise it's going to try to scan, and if nothing's there, it's just going to waste a bunch of your time. If you want to go ahead and scan it without trying to ping it, you add the PN. It's down. I think that device just disappeared.
Severe disability? Camera's still up.
I think it did. Yeah, the camera should still be up, actually.
106.
Oh, we got more devices. I'm assuming that's Samsung's a phone.
Motorola's probably a phone too, I wonder.
Yeah, it's good when that corresponds. Okay, so 102 is...
Yeah, I'm connected.
103 is Raspberry Pi. Okay. Right.
Raspberry 3 is the 105. Rather, yes. Whatever I
103.
just said.
So let's go ahead and scan 103 and see what we got there. I think, pretty sure, since it's basically a Linux box on a board. By default, it probably only has the SSH port up. There it is. So there's your SSH port. It's open. So the ports can have a number of states. One is if it says it's open, that means it's open and it has an application listening on it. If it's closed, it's still sending back a response, but it's sort of a generic response. There's nothing actually listening on it. And then there's filtered for if it's behind something. That can actually mean a lot of things. And if it can't get a response from that port at all, it doesn't show up.
So SSH is the text interface?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you want to remote control the server,
It
doesn't-
more than just text.
Yeah, well.
yeah. Anyway, so that's for port scanning, and a few useful commands to know for port scanning is, well, if you want to ignore pings, because not every device is going to send back a ping, especially if someone's set up to deliberately not send back pings. You can use the PN command to ignore ping.
103.
There's also an SU command, which is useful for scanning UDP ports, because this thing scans for TCP by default. There is good reason for that, is because scanning for UDP ports takes a while. It's generally, I find that it takes a while unless you already know what you're looking for. And there's commands to limit the number of ports that you scan, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to have to go through all of them until you hit something. So by default, you're not scanning for UDP ports, just TCP, since that's what most web services are going to use. And there is also a really handy F, which is fast, which only scans the most common 100, which 22 falls under. Which is really useful if you're doing more than one device, or if you just want to scan it real quick and see what's open. So what else is the cool stuff we can do? So we can do OS detection. So what you can do is there is a -O command, which does basically what this does is it does, in addition to the normal port scan, and unless an option says otherwise, it's going to do the normal port scan for the most common 1,000. It will also try to fingerprint what OS the device is running. The way it does this is that it has a library of basically what various OSs look like if you send them a bunch of packets. So And the library is actually quite extensive. I found it also includes various printers and such.
Host seems down.
It seems down because it's not sending back pings. So if we try to let's do that with -v so that we know what it's doing. If you don't do -v, it's not gonna say anything until it's done. Oh, there we go. And so we see that it's running some kind of Linux.
Yes.
Anything else?
Oh, the
Linux
guy on
3.2.
103.
Yeah, so we see here that it's 103, and it's not showing 999 of the ports because those aren't even open. And there's our SSH port again. There's our MAC address for that adapter, and the device type that it's seeing. It checks this against a database of all sorts of signatures.
Try it for 106.
106?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just walk through here real quick, but it gives you a lot of useful information, like this general purpose device type apparently.
Okay.
For Linux, it'll often say Linux. A lot of the time, it's not going to get exactly what distro you're using, at least not right off the bat. We can see that it's probably running either 3.x or 4.x, either of those kernels, and
Should be running kernel 4.4.
it even tries to check for uptime, which is 0.025 days. Which sounds
Kernel
about
4.
right. Now that's not always accurate. It tries its best based on like, because apparently, and I didn't really know this until I looked at the documentation. There's apparently a lot of network adapters do incidentally send out messages that can give you a rough estimate of how much time it's been on, and that's what it looks for. It's giving you that as well. Okay,
I like it. Sequence prediction difficulty 257. Good luck. Oh, that's nice.
Let's try, let's 106. That is the camera?
Yep.
All right, let's see if it pings. Let's do that with OS detection since it's going to do the regular scan anyway. It's not pinging back. It was pinging back earlier. So it tries to do a ping scan first, just because, again, it's because a lot of these scans can take a long time if you try to cast a wide net. So it tries to see if it's down first to make sure it doesn't waste your time trying to work several minutes trying to scan for something that's not there. So sometimes you got to tell it, just do it. And I guess that's kind of expected to happen. If it starts dropping packets, it's going to try to slow itself down. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's doing it. And all right. So I'll eventually give you a scanner port for 106. It's got 80. There's apparently an HTTP page here.
Yep.
It's oftentimes when it doesn't do it right now because I didn't do a service scan, but I'll show you later. Like once it finds a certain type of service on something, there are modes where it'll actually tell you more. But again, there's the adapter, and oh, it got that it's a webcam.
All right.
Running Air Magnet embedded, FOSCAM embedded, Instar embedded, Linux 2.4 something. Huh. It actually does have FOSCAMs in its database. Neato. If it actually can't fingerprint, it's going to ask you that, hey, we actually don't have this fingerprint. Could you send it over here so we can add it to the database? So there's a pretty large database of devices in there. Good luck. Network distance 1 hop. And also check how many times it had to hop in order to reach that IP. Okay, so that's OS detection along with port scanning. So we can do some other stuff with this. We can scan for not just the ports, but let's say we want, let's get rid of OS detection. Let's say we want to know, can it check what's actually running on those ports? Well, there's the option SV, so for service detection. Yay, that one makes sense. Actually, if you look through the man page, it'll tell you why that makes sense. So we're going to do service detection. It's going to scan for all the ports again. And what it does is it has a series of scripts in there that run when you run SV, that when it detects that this port is open, it will also try to retrieve information from it and give you whatever information it can retrieve out of that port. So we should see a little more about our... Okay, now it's not just a HTTP. So now it's telling us it's a, quote, NetWave IP camera, apparently. For a webcam. So that's nice to know. Now this is useful for a lot of things, because especially if you get, I find it's really useful for IoT devices that you purchased off eBay and you have no idea what they do, or you have no idea what's open on them. So we've had like industrial devices we've had come in, and nothing seems wrong from the outside, but then when you port scan them, they've got an open telnet port or something with no password that wasn't in the manual. You'd be surprised at how often that happens.
That one camera that you brought had a ton of ports open.
Yeah, this is a really good way to find those. I mean, there's also things like, even if you set the server up yourself, sometimes you don't set up your firewall settings right. You may have, you may set up a Windows server, and you may have SMB open, even though there's nothing you're using SMB for on that server. You don't need that. Things like that. Basically, it's a really good way to see what would someone actually see if they tried to look at this from the outside. Let's say a device got on your network and started checking around, seeing what's up. Because for security purposes, it's actually really handy to, even if you know what's going on the inside, just check it from the outside too. Check your sanity, make sure everything's okay. So we have something else we can do with this. So Nmap is also very extensible. So you can run a variety of scripts with Nmap. Generally, and it comes with a library of a pretty sizable library of scripts. Some of them, I think they're going to be under user. Boom. So these are all the scripts these are some of the scripts that come with Nmap. And they do a lot of very different things, and they can be used, and they're useful for a lot of different purposes. Basically, over the years, people have written these to do various tasks and put them in there so you can execute them right away. These are all going to be under. Yeah, they'll be in the scripts directory. There is actually a catalog of these scripts on the Nmap site. There is actually a catalog of all these scripts. Let's go to NSE scripts. This is just a list of the scripts that were in that directory. Although this, for obvious reasons, this is a lot easier to browse. They do a lot of different things, but they are tagged with different categories to do various things. Some categories include auth, broadcast, brute, default, discovery, depending on what they do. So we can do, rather than look for individual ones, is that they've grouped a lot of the most convenient, faster running, and sort of the might as well scripts under a category called default. So if you want to run all those scripts, and generally these are all information gathering scripts, if you want to run these on a against the device, let's say this camera, we can use SC, which runs everything in the default category. Now, default category includes anything that is, well, they generally put it in this category if it fulfills a number of different, if it fulfills a number of different criteria. Either it's pretty useful, it's fast running, it doesn't require any, it just gives you back straight information, it doesn't require any parameters for your extras you got to put in there, and it's not, generally not intrusive. So anything that's going to crash someone's server is generally not in there. So it's generally safe to run. That said, some of the default is not the same thing as safe. Just as a caution, I would not recommend running the default category on anything you don't own, because some of them, while not intrusive, have a tendency to, they may reveal information that whoever owns the device doesn't want people revealing, simply because they didn't set it up right. There is actually a script in there in the default category that will enumerate all the Windows users on a device if they happen to have that open, for example. So, I mean, it's not going to try to break through the fence, but it will just walk through if it sees there's no fence there.
It'll also sometimes make printers print blank pages.
I've run into that like once. Where it'll just go like, what is it doing?
I worked at a printing company. We had 7 big Xeroxes that could print 130 pages a minute. So it was a lot of paper.
It's still on 106. Oh, there, it came that time. So now it's going to, I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm going to cancel it if it takes too long. That's the camera, right? Yeah, that's the camera. So now it just did its regular scan. It found the port 80. Now it's initiating NSC. And while that's running, let's look over some of the neat things it has in default. Okay. Apparently there's one in here that checks if a DNS server allows queries for third-party names. There's a few for FTPs. Finger. I don't even know what that service is.
Finger.
Yeah, some of these are weird. It's like
Finger's an old service.
yeah.
It
Git repository.
tells you
No,
stuff.
Does a person exist on a faraway server? Do they have a
It's a
out
name.
of office message set?
MySQL info. Extracts information from Quake game servers. Go figure. Oh, that's the one. That's sometimes. That one will sometimes get things you might not have wanted to know. It will attempt to enumerate Windows services, shares, installed software through SNMP if that happens to be open.
Nice.
So basically, when you run default, it goes ahead and tries. It might not necessarily run them, because then if the relevant port's not open, it's not even going to try. But it's going to try all of those scripts. And what do we got here? Ooh, so we actually got a little more out of that little port 80 HTTP. It's apparently this port supports both GET and POST, and the site doesn't have a title.
Doesn't mean one.
This camera is not very interesting.
Do the Raspberry Pi then.
Raspberry Pi.
It's 103.
103. Let's try one. Let's try the Raspberry Pi. It's blocking ping. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like a lot of these devices just don't return ping. So like that one, at first it returns a ping. Second time it doesn't. Third time it suddenly does.
You gotta wake it up.
Maybe. Oh, okay. So we got a little more of that.
Oh, I got some SSH keys.
So that's the. Now that's not the private one,
No.
to be honest. But like there's some useful stuff in there. Like if you need to connect, that's the SSH host key.
Keys, what's the key?
So SSH keys. So SSH keys are basically, they're like public-private key pairs, and they're used to.
Authentication?
It's for authentication when you connect via SSH. So when you connect to an SSH, connect to a server via SSH, the first time you do it, your client is actually going to ask you, do you trust this server? And then it records that server's public key into its known host list. And then when you connect to it again, it just checks to make sure it's the same. If not, then it asks you again. The reason for that is if you're doing like server administration and someone, happens to swap a server on you, you'll know. So
Anything you do, you know what
it's really good for that.
On the other side of that, you can copy those keys from server to server and have all of the keys in your organization be the same.
How would you do that?
Because then I only have one definition for how to connect to pretty much anything.
There are implications to that smell funny. I have to think about it a bit more, but I'm not sure if I would ever do that. Yeah.
I have 999 ports closed. Woo!
Okay, so that device is not particularly interesting. Let's see what else we got here. I guess to clarify, there is also, so SC is going to run every script in the default. There is also the script command, which you can also put default. That does the same thing. But there are different categories of scripts. You can always do it by name, like let's say SSH brute, which you can use to, well, that script actually happens to, it actually accepts a word list where you can try to brute force an SSH.
Well, go ahead, try it.
I actually don't have a word list to feed into it.
Well, it should be
Not
pretty
happening.
simple because the password's the default password.
But, or you can also put a category, like,
Generally speaking, it's on my own network.
Brute force would be like attempting to break into it using
that would be attempting to break into it.
with a list of
Obviously,
passwords.
yeah, obviously that falls under brute and intrusive. So you can also run everything in the default category, or you can run everything in the default and safe category, because they're tagged so that like a lot of these scripts can have different tags. If you actually go to the,
So it has a default set of words to try to use.
no, so default is the default category of scripts, and they lump the most commonly used and useful ones in there that run fast. Some of the scripts that are not in there, they might take a while to run depending on what they do.
They don't check for a number of attempts and lockouts and all that crap.
Some of them will do that. It really depends on the script. Like there's SSL cert here, and that'll actually check if the server, if your connection has an SSL cert, and give you information about that, and it's default, safe, and discovery. So if you ran the discovery category, you'd also get this one. And there is you can also run everything in that has to be in both categories. Run everything in here that's not in this category. Things like that. So that's useful for running a whole bunch of them at once. Or you can do that by name, like if you like I showed you earlier. So I can try a few other things here. And there's also a parameter to send in arguments. So if you try to, if you wanted to try to use one of the brute force scripts, most of those will take a word list. So you would give it the name of a text file that had all the ones you wanted to try. And
Linux, you would think by default would be designed in to say, hey, somebody's trying to break in, see 100 of those a second or 100 milliseconds.
that brings up an interesting point.
Yeah.
So now for convenience, and this is the really convenient way to do it, there is a command to do, well, a bunch of useful things at once. This is A, and that is aggressive. So what that does is it does the regular port scan for the most common 1,000 ports. It will do the OS detection, and it will do the default scripts. So that's just a really neat shortcut to go ahead and check stuff. Although it still needs the PN if it doesn't return ping for some reason. So this basically does, well, it does pretty much most of what we just showed. Oh, it does one more thing. It does trace route, which if it needs to hop, if it needs to hop somewhat in order to get to that particular device, it will show you the route it took and how long it took to get there. So yay! With the script actually got that it's Raspbian.
It did. Well, that's the open SSH.
Yeah, that's
So it saw that on port 22.
yeah. So it actually knows what the what version of OpenSSH is running on that port. So yeah, that's some basics on how to use this thing, and it's really helpful if you're trying to build stuff or if you buy some shady thing from eBay and you have no idea what it does. Or you want to know, hey, is it safe for me to open this up to the net? We'll find out. Okay, so let's see what sort of devices we have on here.
I should have brought in my $30 cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a quick ping.
That route through China.
Now, it will tell you if it's accepting connections on any of the ports. What it doesn't do is that this Nmap does not do packet inspection. It's very much a network exploration thing. If you want to do packet inspection, you need Wireshark, and I was going to do a tutorial on that, but that requires a lot more setup because then I actually have to bring in my own router and then set it up to connect to my laptop so I can catch all the packets going through.
Wireshark sounds interesting.
So Wireshark is another application that you would if you're really trying to find out what a device was doing, you use this in conjunction. You use Nmap to find what ports are open and see what it's listening for. And if it's phoning home, you'd use Wireshark to inspect the packets going out and see what's in there. So we have another 107. What do you think 102 is? Let's try 102. Intel Corporate.
Intel Corporate. Oh no, they're coming after you.
Why not? Let's do A. Let's do V so we can see its progress so we know it didn't stop. It's like it responds to ping when I'm just casually passing by, but it doesn't respond to ping when we're trying to. Ooh, 9,08009.
To run Wireshark, do you have to have the promiscuous network cards like you had to in the old days?
So you need a promiscuous network card to use with Wireshark if you are trying to find packets that weren't meant for you.
Oh, okay.
So generally, if you connect to a Wi-Fi from the outside, you're only going to get the packet. You're only able to read the packets that were meant to come to you.
Got it.
If you have promiscuous, then you might be able to catch some of the other ones. Or if you just want to read all the packets going out and you don't care what's in them. If for example, you want to crack the Wi-Fi password if they're using WPS and didn't set it up properly. Scanning for 3. Yeah, I don't know how long that's going to take. That's why the options are kind of important. That's why the options are somewhat granular, because some of the parts of this scan are going to take longer than others. So oftentimes you only want to do what you want to see. Is that taking so long? Oh, there we go.
You can pipe these in Unix to a file or something.
Yeah, you can pipe it to a file. Definitely.
Batch them.
Yep. Okay, now it's going to the scripts. Yeah, for timings and such, by default, it's going to try to use the fastest practical one that it's by default, it's going to use the fastest timing that it deems practical. So it's going to try it at its default, and then it's going to scale it back if it starts losing packets, because that's often going to happen if like the router is not getting all of them through, or if the connection's slow. That's why sometimes it's been coming up with like, okay, it's dropping that, switching the timing to whatever value.
So does it have a general purpose evaluation of your host to see if
I'd
it's anything
say,
blatant?
basically, if you have anything that's really obvious, -A will catch it, because it's doing the most common 1,000 ports, and it's doing the service scan, and it's doing the OS detection, and that's usually that'll usually cover most of what you were looking for.
But it doesn't actually do an evaluation. It doesn't tell you this is really bad, but this one's
Yeah,
okay.
it's just going to tell you what it sees.
Yeah.
It's up to you to figure out what's going on.
I think 107 is the Chromecast.
So it has 8008.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't have a title. I'm guessing that's 808 is often like the admin for that. What was this again? 102.
107.
Yes. Oh, this is 102.
102.
AJP Apache. Huh. It's got an SSL cert on there. Huh.
809. 8009.
Azure Wave Technology is a MAC address.
That's
So
running
that
Linux.
seems to be associated with Google Chrome.
That's the Chrome.
I think that's the Chromecast, yeah.
Yeah, I think the
We
Chrome.
went into Azure Wave again.
So the Chromecast actually does have a 809, 9,000.
9000 is a, I just looked it up. And forgot. Immediately forgot.
You'd be surprised
It's a
how often this
It's a
works.
management
You're gonna get
engine.
into the old folks class pretty quick.
It's a management engine used for
Oh, that's
thingamabobs. I did. I just looked it
Oh,
up
no,
and
that's
immediately forgot.
cut. And it's
Doesn't get better.
So it's
When
8008.
you forget that you forgot. It's
That's right, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I forgot.
It's actually blank.
Everything.
What is here?
It's a management engine
That's the
for
thing.
I'm just
something
checking
in
to see
certain
if it actually
games.
sent me anything.
808.
It's actually a blank HTML page. What do you
Yeah.
know? I guess that's supposed to have something at some
It's
state.
probably waiting for some certain key thing from the Chrome app or
Yeah,
something.
it's got a question mark because it's not entirely sure. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, this is going to be open-ended. We're going to see what we have here.
Is the Chromecast.
Yeah, star
I
is a
think that's
wild
the
card. You can
Chromecast,
use it
yeah.
to just scan anything that's on there. Now, something to keep in mind, this doesn't catch the thing I'm doing with the SN, that's ping, and so that's not going to catch anything that doesn't return pings. Phones typically don't return pings. So in order to do that, you're probably going to have to see if, like, in order to find devices like that, if you don't already know what they are, you probably want to scan for try to scan for a certain port named service and see if it sends back anything. And if it sends back anything, you'll be able to see it. But that's a really time-consuming process. I really need to set this up to do V, so you know it's not stuck. Am I still connected to the network?
You broke it. It's broken.
Router.
This usually shows phones or unknowns.
If you do an ARP, it will often catch it too, if the router's sending it back at least.
Yeah,
You know what, I'm
ARP
actually going to try the host machine rather than there.
does stuff. 102. See if this.
2 different network adapters.
This one just doesn't, this thing on my phone just doesn't give me all the other information.
Yeah.
It just
I
tells me.
think the connection to the
Stuff's
router is
open.
starting to complain. Oh, okay. Well, that's working. Good thing we got a backup. Samsung. I'm gonna guess those are phones. Why would the phones? Oh yeah. Okay. It's probably the. So Han High Precision. Anyone know what that is?
For a phone?
High. I know my Dell computer uses that as its network.
Probably someone's laptop.
It's probably someone's laptop.
This laptop is serving as an HTML page. Maybe it's not.
It could be. It could be.
I'll turn off my Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
We're doing stuff.
Oh, the router's not liking it.
What address is it?
106. It keeps dropping the probes.
106.
I'm actually gonna try again, but without the A. We're just gonna do the.
I'm 104, so that's not this thing, not the Acer.
106,
C-Link
right?
Electronics Limited.
This is a not Magnavox, Motorola phone.
IP camera. That's weird. Huh. So it wants the username and password. Did we have another
Admin and blank. Try admin.
admin and blank?
Or admin and admin.
Nope.
Password.
I don't know what it is. Oh, hey.
Password. That's a camera.
Is that camera?
Yeah.
I thought the other one was
Try
that
sign
camera.
in. Just click sign in the second one, the middle one. Not that one, that one.
Push mode?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it's getting back. That would explain it.
And it's admin and blank.
Admin and blank, really?
Yep.
Huh. I thought the other one was
Looks like,
camera.
yeah.
Oh,
There
it
it
is
is.
the camera. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the D-Link. Yeah.
It's a camera.
What we were looking at before, we thought it was 106.
Oh, that was 106. I just totally forgot that was it.
Oh, okay.
Totally zoned on what it is. It's stuff.
It's
You're
stuff.
getting old too. You're going to join the club.
It's there's a bunch of numbers and things don't make sense anymore.
Huh. So yeah, that's basically how to use this. It's pretty handy thing. It's also really useful for, especially if you do sysadmin, for scanning for vulnerabilities. Because I remember when last week when WannaCry came out and started using that SMB, started using that SMB exploit. I actually at work I scanned all the machines on our network for that specific port that it used, and we were able to find all the machines that we had to update. So that sort of thing.
Would it be good for me to bring the IoT device in next week and look at it? Would that be any advantage to that?
We could if you wanted to.
Just a little short ditty.
Yeah. What else? I guess that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Anyone got any questions or?
I came in late. What program is that?
Nmap.
Okay.
Nmap.
It's Linux, and
It's
you're saying you can't get it on Windows.
You can get it on Windows. I've never used the Windows version though. So I have no
It's
idea.
pretty much the same
That doesn't
thing.
surprise.
How well it works.
What about a Mac version? No, just kidding.
I'm not sure actually.
If you're gonna run it on Windows, install Cygwin. It runs faster than the Windows executable. it gives you a Linux environment on Windows, and it's handy.
So it's an emulator?
Cygwin is a couple of DLLs that simply emulate a Linux environment. It's not really a simulator. It lets you run Bash and Nmap and a lot of stuff. It's nice.
It does have a little bit of a peculiarity, which is the reason, like, you usually want to run it if you're on Linux, you usually want to run it as sudo, because it needs sudo permissions to use certain features and scripts, which that's convenient. Though I've also noticed that if you don't use it as sudo, it doesn't have permission to do a SYN stealth scan. It ends up falling back to the regular. It ends up falling back to the regular. Just connect to the TC port, P port, and see what happens. Scan. Like if I don't use sudo, it does that. And I actually wasn't sure why it did that. And apparently the reason is that if you do it with sudo, it allows it to send partial connections. So by default, if it has permission to do so, it actually doesn't complete its TCP connection. It actually cancels it before it finishes. Reason being is that apparently if you don't complete your TCP connection, a lot of servers don't log the connection. Apparently that's the default behavior for this thing if it has permission to do it. That's telling, but so yeah. I guess anything else? I'll shut this off.
Anybody else have anything? I was going to show the camera. I was going to try to do something else. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
I got a question. Anybody here good at Android? I got a boot loop issue with the phone.
You're gonna have to send that phone back.
Never mind.
You still messing with that, huh?
Still messing with it, yeah.
Unfortunately, what model is it?
It's a
It's an LG.
LG G3.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing that I was able to guess that.
I see a
They just
picture,
laugh at you.
and I can go into the boot screen.
It doesn't
But it
exactly
doesn't
act
go in
right.
Yeah.
We looked at it last week.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not a good thing. Unfortunately, a lot of, especially the mid or low tier LG phones are, unfortunately, they're rather infamous for that.
There you go. You got
It's
a
a-
rather infamous phone.
It
doesn't help you.
when
one
it
bit.
happens, you're pretty much gonna have to. You're gonna have to either use the warranty or get a new phone, because unfortunately it is it's sort of a wear and tear thing. Eventually, that's just kind of the way it is with a lot of the LG phones. That's kind of their failure state after they've worn for a while, and it's a hardware issue that has to do with, I forget what exactly
So it's
it
not
is.
software, it's a hardware.
It's a hardware issue of the boot loops.
That's interesting.
Unfortunately.
Like I said, it was my wife's G3, and of course they talked her into a G6. And I'm thinking, and I got the same model. That's still working. Sort of.
Honestly, I really hate to say it, but it's like, right now, Android has a really big problem when it comes to what would you call it? When it comes to I guess what would be called long-term support for phones, because of right now the way you need to compile Android versions for each chipset.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the manufacturers aren't very good with that. So, I mean, again, this is kind of a doom and gloom thing. But if you want to use a phone for more than 3 years, you're not getting an Android right now. That's it. I mean, it's coming from an Android user. that's kind of a problem right now. iOS is in a bit of a better situation.
iOS.
Apple's in a bit of a better situation because they can usually do support. Their support is usually based on major iOS version increments. So if you get a phone that catches the very beginning, you may get 4 or 5 years out of it before it end of life, just because you caught the head end of that. I think the iPhone 5 SC is that's gonna be the one that might end of life at the end of this year, and that's been out for a while. So yeah, probably not what some people want to hear, but that's kind of the situation right now. I mean, again, I'm saying that as a guy who uses Android. It's not good news.
I was hoping to use it as a platform for Android app, writing Android apps.
It would probably still work for that.
Well, I can't get into it.
Well, if it wasn't boot looping.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, unfortunately, it's getting better, but it's really slow. At this point, Google has pretty much figured out that the hardware manufacturers for lack of a better way to say it, they're insisting on being really crappy about it.
They're trying. It's built in obsolescence.
Yeah, it's like they're insisting on being really crappy about it. They've separated out security updates as monthly increments, and they've said that okay, even if you don't do a full version update, at least patch in this. And some of them have been doing that. Not all of them have been doing that, unfortunately.
It's carrier specific and it's phone specific.
It's carrier specific
and it's phone specific. So some phones get an update and some phones don't, even among the same
model.
Yeah.
Did you guys already talk about the room?
No.
No.
Do you want to talk about the room?
I got the stand.
Cool.
Two of these tripods.
Oh wait, here's an unfortunate thing to try. If you got an
I
Android phone
wonder
right
what
now,
that was. I figured it. You would take it home, or we'll find out about.
Two of these.
Bruce Lee used
Oh.
it in the
Right. And you can either glue it or screw it.
Screw it.
And the chain here has got a cut and loop, so you can make it as high as you want. I figured you probably wouldn't be any less than that. It'll go all the way up to, however,
Joel
this will keep it from.
Joel emailed me last week right after the meeting and said he forgot he had to be somewhere else, so I don't get the board until next week.
Okay, well, I'll get it. I'm tied up.
But do you got a board
Yeah.
too?
Oh, the board he has was really nice.
Yeah, he ended up with it's a pretty nice thick piece of cardboard.
Okay.
I've been talking about 1 inch thick cardboard.
And
Better than my what I had.
and what I did this week, I'm not done with it yet. But I did it. I said I went ahead and soldered, spaced them out and soldered them. And I've still got 9 more to go, but
I can't come next week, so I want to make sure I drop this off tonight.
okay, we could put it in my trunk or something.
All yours.
Oh, don't want to get Vincente in the head.
All right, everybody. Batter up.
What are these bare wires for?
Just for that. So it was designed so that you could plug it in to a 5-volt power supply or plug it into the Arduino. And those 2 wires are just power, and I'm going to use them for power.
And this is just the extension?
No, that's the original that was on there to start with. The extension is in between.
He has wired every darn one of those things. He has been industrious.
Yeah, I thought you were just gonna do every
Well, we
13th or something.
we talked about doing every third, and then I sat down and thought, well, no. After I saw the
Additional
board,
inch this week.
do I?
Yeah, we want an
Additional
additional
inch.
inch between each one.
Yeah.
Well, this one here actually is too short.
But
The white's too short.
risking
Yeah, I
life
know.
and limb down there, bud.
I know.
And he's got a bat that you made.
So the after I saw the board, though, I said, well, I'll just go ahead and do 26 of them spaced out, and it'll turn out better anyway. But that's what I've been busy doing this week. It's actually, I've gotten the first couple, you're sitting there fumbling around. By the time you get fourth or fifth one in, you've got an actual system down.
Yeah, at 22, you're flying.
I pretty much was. I can do the last 9 now in maybe
Your eyes closed.
maybe. Well, I can't see color with my fingertips. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say I'm
Yeah,
surprised
yeah.
you're saying, but
because I ran out of red.
You got yellow down there.
Because I ran out of red. I cut all the reds first, and then I thought about it and I said, wait, that one needs to be a little bit longer because it has to loop back around.
also you got the one that loops down below. That needs to be long.
Actually, they don't need to loop.
No,
I mean, okay, you weren't talking all the way back to the beginning.
no, but it needs to be spaced far enough so that the letters are big enough. So it makes
Or 1
sense.
and 2 are far enough apart.
Yeah, so 1 and 2 are far enough apart, and then 2 and 3 are far enough apart. So that should give me enough length to space them far enough apart.
Yeah, what was it 8,
8,
8, 7, 8,
8, 9, 9.
8, 9, 9, 8, 9, 9. Okay, yeah.
And the middle line are back.
Yes. And I took that into account in the code. The code fixes that.
And he has a series of discussions on Google Plus.
Yeah, I've shown pictures of the
links-
progress.
The links are in the meeting announcement to take you to his discussion.
But it really wasn't that hard to do all that. It's just a little time consuming.
This is actually set up for popping through something, isn't it?
Probably a panel mount or something, yeah.
Yeah. But
I was running, I didn't bring it. I should have brought it, but I've got a sketch. It was just an example sketch. And these things, when it's spaced out like this, they look so much like Christmas tree lights. It's not even funny. So I think it's going to work good. And
Hey, you know what? Now
put
that,
ping
now
pong
that I'm
balls on
thinking
there
about
for me
it,
too.
hey, who just got an Android phone? Try this. Go to your about.
go to what?
Here's our bad news bears
Settings.
activity.
About phone.
So go to about phone. And what month is your Android security patch level?
Yeah.
I can't find settings here. Here we go. Settings. About at the
We'll
bottom.
have a date.
Okay, and then what is it? Status?
Oh, wow.
So in
Software
phone status, there's going to be Android version and Android security patch level.
2016.
About
Oh.
08, 2016.
You need a new phone.
I did.
Android Security 2016.
You need a new phone.
Where's it in the about phone?
It's in a phone status
Third
and
from the
Android
bottom.
security patch
I-
level.
Software?
I've known I've needed a new phone for
If it's
about
not
10
this
months.
year, you definitely need a new phone. If it's not within the last.
Yeah, 2017-0301.
Oh, you're good.
Wait, you're close. You're close. You're less bad off than these two.
May 1st.
Well,
Oh wait, May 1st.
I had to reset it to do a
2017?
hard. I
What
think I had to do
model
a
was
hard
that?
factory reset on it.
7.
I mean, what model
seen-
phone is that?
Seems like I had a security patch not
Is
too
it a
long ago.
Samsung? or-
Yeah, it is a Samsung.
Oh, okay.
It may have been that long ago.
Patched mine since then.
2016.
Ouch.
Apparently patched to the old version.
Yeah.
Yeah, my security is release 3.1.
Yeah, so that's the thing. For a while now, they released them by dates rather than by version number, and yeah, that's our Android problem right now. Except
Is there
We
still
have one
Microsoft,
May.
is there still a Microsoft phone out there?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Got 4 of them in one.
So I've got May 5th, but that's only because there's a Google phone, so obviously that's kind of a given. It's not really a comparison.
Google phone's still Android though, right?
This one's a Nexus 6P.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be, yeah. So there's kind of the issue with Android right now. It's not all the vendors are
See,
keeping up.
even among, the Moto, when I bought that was owned by Google, and it was supposed to have been updated 3 versions of Android. Well, the company that actually provides the service said, no, we're just going to do 1. So I've only got 1 update. Period. It was
If
one
you're out of-
major OS
If you're out
update.
of this, if you're not in
It was a
this, you're
$600
pretty much-
phone
you're-
for.
Consider getting
The
a new
G3
phone.
or the G6 is going for about
Unfortunately.
$600. Well, I'd say to buy one for my wife.
It's like power supplies.
Oh, yeah.
He's not here.
Yeah, any 555 timer.
Oh.
Zero came in. It's okay for $1.50.
I don't think the bank.
Everything for China.